Today's story begins on the top of a mountain, showing a young man climbing the mountain, exhausted from the climb and the bumpy road. Increasing the difficulty, he reaches the top by placing a necklace on a stone monument. He decides to rest from his extreme fatigue and says to himself, Lin Song only managed to fulfill half of the promise in the end. He says, I was the emperor. His grandfather, the Hong Emperor, Chu Yuan, appears, teaching him and saying to him, Boy, what do you think of strength? He says to him, Grandpa, aren't the flowers beautiful? The young man's name is Zhou Yunwen. Grandpa Emperor says to him, Why do you think she is beautiful? Chu says, starting from the nobles to the lowly, everyone is talking about her and gathering around the capital for her sake. If power is not flowers, what else might it be? The emperor laughs and raises it up and says, As expected from my Yun, how clever you are. However, Yun, remember this well. Even though the flowers are showy and colorful, it may wither as if it never existed before. He says the day my grandfather, who had no suitable heir, left the throne to me. For someone whose existence was no different from his non-existence. For me, he could not even escape his inevitable fate. No, but I was the one who was unable to escape his inevitable fate. One of the princes shouts at him and tells him to listen, Chu Yunwen. Prince Yan says, no matter what the late emperor said, how can he entrust the fate of an entire empire to a brat like you? If you really care about this country and its people, find a suitable place for scum like you instead of ascending the throne. Yan shouts and says, Uncle, what are you talking about? Prince Yan says everything is in order. I am out of my throne. They say it was a coup started by my relative, and many people died as a result. During the coup, Lion Song tells the prince, Come this way please, Your Majesty. Prince Yan orders them to arrest Yun and kill him. But Yan orders the soldiers who remained loyal to them to protect Prince Yun. The prince says Mr. Lion Song escaped me from the palace through a secret route. He said to me, I memorized what I told you. At the top of the small, mysterious peak of Mount Tai, look for a small stone monument and hang the emperor's medal on it. The two men who served His Majesty Emperor Huge will definitely help you. Prince Yun says no to Lion. How can I continue living this miserable life? But he shouts at him and says, Get back to your senses, Prince Yun. You have to survive. It is the only way to implement the royal decree and honor His Majesty the Hong Emperor. Please promise me that you will survive, Your Majesty. The prince says to him, I understand, Lion. Good luck, Your Majesty. He then goes on his horse towards the mountains. He returns from recollection to reality and says that the power disappears quickly. Like this, if I could be born again, instead of being a flower that could wither at any moment, I would like to be born as a free butterfly. Lion Song seems to be as far as I can go. He closes his eyes to rest, but he falls asleep. Two old men appear, at the necklace, and saying that it is the emperor's medal. They bring him into the cave. He wakes up while he is inside the cave, shouting, Your Majesty. We, the unfaithful followers, salute Your Majesty. He says to them, Who are you? The two old men say, We are the secret guards of His Majesty, Emperor of Hong, Huan Na, and Hui Na. Prince Yeon says, Did you save me? They say, Yes, Your Majesty. The medal you have is the Emperor's medal. It is the absolute monarch's medal, which is awarded only to a member of the true lineage of the imperial family. The imperial family is full of rebels, preparing for any rebellion. His Majesty the Hong Emperor informed us about the Emperor's medal. No matter how much time passes, the great Ming Empire will surely return to you again, Your Majesty. Prince Yun says no, I don't want it anymore. This land belongs to the people and is not mine, and now that my turn is over, I have to forget everything and start the life of a commoner. They shout, What are you saying, Your Majesty? Prince Yun says, I realize very well how incomplete you are. I am fed up with Your Majesty's words. Call me young master instead. Hu No says to himself, I did not expect His Majesty to surrender. This is how I feel, my heart is being torn apart. Prince Yun says, Young master, I like the sound of this title, and it also comforts me, since things are going on. That's why I don't want to change just my name, but everything. Huan No says, young master, do you really want to forget all your past? Prince Yian says, it was just saying that it's great that I can do this. It's my dream. He tells him, in fact, you can do that. The prince could not believe the two brothers were fighting. He says, Hui na Huan na. Are you thinking about no? You cannot? He tells him, don't interfere, isn't this what His Majesty wants? The prince says, listen, Huan No, if this is really possible, can you help me instead of being a flower stuck in the ground? I want to become a butterfly that flies freely in the sky. Can you make me a free being like this? He says, please tell me, Your Majesty the Emperor, what kind of person you want to be. The prince says, you can make me who I want. Huan Na says, as long as he exists in history, it is entirely possible, but he must be alive. This will be a little complicated, but yes, it is definitely possible. Prince Yun is really saying, what about someone from Zhonghu? Zhang Hun says you mean someone from Murim. That's possible, but who do you want to become? Prince Yun says, I don't know much about the history of Zhang. However, since you both come from Zhang, you should know it well. I want to become someone who can move wherever he wants, freely. Huan Na says, His Majesty must not know what he is talking about. The most free person in Jom is also the strongest. I cannot determine exactly, since the strongest person varies from one era to another, but if I had to choose one of them, it is the heavenly devil. How can you say that to His Majesty, Prince? Yun says, great, good name. Then make me that person. They go to the mountains to get a spell that will bring the spirits. Hoi No says to himself, I remember it clearly, as if it were yesterday. The basics of spirit summoning, spirit binding, and the demon spirit pills that he kept in the secret storeroom of the fire worshipping sect. The day these things were stolen, I was not His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor's favorite to begin with. I wouldn't even exist in this world. Huan No says, is the vessel ready? I've prepared it. I injected it with huge amounts of elixirs and squirted it with poison. Hui No says, okay, there's nothing wrong with the surgical procedure. Once His Majesty had a long time to adjust his entire body. The pot preparations were complete. Huan Nuo said, great work, but the late Heavenly Emperor will also be pleased. Let me ask you now, are you ready to welcome your new life? Heavenly Demon. Heavenly Devil says, how dare you wake me up from his nap? Why are you bothering me? He says to him, I want to give you a new life. Heavenly Demon, a new life is interesting, but I don't want it. Huan Na says, why don't you want that? The Heavenly Demon tells him that he doesn't want to become human. Have you ever lived the life of a peerless person? You tell me to experience the feeling of loneliness and boredom again. Forget that. Hell is more fun than this. Don't call me again. If you call me again for this reason, I will kill everyone. Huan No tells him to slow down. Slow down. He thinks to himself and says, I have to think of a quick plan. If the Heavenly Demon returns now, everything will go down the drain. He needed something. Words that could arouse the demonic sect's unparalleled interest. And then he said, Heavenly Demon, you are a fool. The Heavenly Demon gets angry at him and says, what did you say just now? You were flirting with death. Do you want me to end your life here and now? Huan No says, if you are truly the Heavenly Devil, then you are foolish to think that you are so ignorant about the world. He says to himself, I will die if you are afraid now. The Heavenly Devil says, are you finished talking, you bastard rat? Huan says people of this era and today say that no matter how powerful the Heavenly Devil is, he will not be a match even for the sage. The Heavenly Devil gets angry at what he heard and says, what? You are no match for him. At any damn time would he say nonsense like this? Huan says, oh Heavenly Devil, do you know the word development around you? It may be the best in your time, but the Murim people developed their martial arts step by step. The current generation is facing a development in martial arts that cannot even be compared to your generation. You said that you were unparalleled and that you felt tired of that. If they are like this again, the Heavenly Demon is angry with them and says that, I am the one who was unrivaled before and now, I am unrivaled in the past, and the present is stronger across generations. How old is that little boy? Huan tells him that he is in his 20s. Heavenly Demon says that he will live for at least more than 100 years. Well, if I enter, the people of this generation are really strong. I have to sharpen my skills and prove that I am the best in this generation as well. The peerless master of the past and the present. Peerless, eternal, exalted Sarim. Why? He claimed the heavenly devil. I'll invite you to a meal then. Huan says thank you. Now go and lie there forever. After that, he prepares the spell to enter the heavenly demon scan into Prince Yun and tells his brother to bring his love, the demon spirit. He gives the prince the demon spirit pill and inserts some needles into the prince's body. The prince wakes up with his eyes red. He screams and says, I hear voices. My head hurts as if it is about to break. What is this sound? Huan Na. He examines the prince, trying to put pressure on his weak points to calm the eruption of the heavenly demon inside him. Huan Na says, what's going on here? Heavenly devil shouts from within the silence. You won't. Huan says, sir, it doesn't make sense. Huan Na. The master is now talking to the heavenly devil. It seems that the great foundations have failed. Huan Na. Isn't that obvious? Stop talking and do something about it. Huai says heavenly demon's failure to control the master. The clash of consciousness is something that should not have happened. If this situation continues, the master's mind will be destroyed. Hey, if you can't bring back a heavenly demon, tell him that he knows how to summon him, but doesn't know how to bring him back. What you will do? Will it paralyze the master in this way? Who does not know that? I'm thinking now. But the heavenly devil is pressuring the prince, and the prince is screaming and in pain. Huan Na says to himself, I am sure that the devilish nature of the heavenly demon and the consciousness of the master have collided. There is no other way to explain this. Meanwhile, he gets an idea and shouts to his brother that he has an additional demon pill. In other words, we can use the great fundamentals once again, thus suppressing the devilish nature of the heavenly demon. But Huan Na did not understand what his brother meant and said, what are you thinking? What will you restrain with his love of the demon spirit? He shouts at him and says, you useless old man, have you turned your genius head into a block of stone? We will put another person inside the master's body, another legendary person from the Murim. Huan Na says, is this true that you are trying to nullify the effect of the natural two natures by summoning another personality that suppresses the demonic energy? He tells him, we don't have much time, just the same way as a while ago. So let's not waste any more time. Let's try to do it and let what's left for the heavens to prepare the spell. The demonic nature and the heavenly nature as well. The emperor, whoever appears, must be someone from heaven. The spell ends and they fall to the ground from exhaustion and say, I am really old. The prince gets up. They shout, sir, are you okay? The prince tells them, I am hungry, twins. Noah, the sin of what is eaten. The twins bring him food. The twins say to each other, is this considered a success? It seems like a lie, but the heavenly demon from inside Prince Yun's body said, fuck success. Why do I have to stay stuck in such a narrow place? The second soul from within Prince Yun's body said, are you the famous heavenly demon? You are more impressive than the rumors suggest. Prince Yun stops his meal and tells them to be calm. Do you think you live alone here? The heavenly devil gets angry and says, what's the matter, buddy? Does my talk bother you? I think it strikes a chord with you. The prince says, thinking about it, something seems different. It is noisy, but not annoying. The heavenly devil gets annoyed with the prince. He tells him, what are you talking about? He is the greatest person who has ever existed. The prince tells him that you are back to being noisy again. The No brothers say that as a result, Yeon Moon's strategy succeeded in suppressing the heavenly demon's demonic spirit by using someone from the righteous sect. The name of the second person who entered Yeon Moon's body is Hai Noon, a highly venerated monk who is respected as the sixth patriarch of Shulin Temple. The prince says, well, it seems that a very wonderful person has entered my body, and thanks to him, the damned heavenly demon can no longer bully me. The twins are ordering us to bring another vessel. Yuan Nuo says to himself, The emperor is changing. With 3 personalities coexisting in the body of one person, it must be very confusing. How should this problem be dealt with? The prince says to him, "What are you doing there? Go and get me some water." The second spirit inside the prince, her name is Hai Noon, tells him that this refers to a change of identity. Prince Yoon says forget about the change of identity. It is just a new name. Hai Nyung, you seem to have some good ideas. Why don't you give me a name or something like that? He tells him what about Musung, the prince. The name Sang refers to an unpredictable life. It is an unlucky name and is suitable for dying in a ridiculous way. What about you, heavenly devil? He says, "You bastard. Don't you know how amazing this man is? Before you? You should have asked me first. The iron-blooded killer." The prince says I'm talking about a real name, not a title. Seriously, how did this ignorant man make the mountains and rivers tremble at the sound of his name? Heavenly demon says, "What are you saying about me, you bastard? I will take control of this brat's body right now." He tries to control the prince's body, but he cannot say why. He is still fine. Because of him, this bastard is interfering in the process of controlling this body. Damn it, there is no way he can. As long as I cannot control his body, I will have no choice but to cooperate first. And when the time is right, I will swallow your whole body. Prince Yoon says to him, "What were you muttering to yourself earlier? Do you have something to say?" Heavenly demon says yes, the name. "I was thinking of a name for you. What about Bachin? Do you like it?" The prince thinks and says, "Piercing the heavens is the meaning of Bachin." Suddenly, the prince decides to wander in the world of Murim. Yuan says to him, "No, you are welcome." "No, young sir, where are you going?" Prince Ulm says, "I told you before, I will go wandering around the world of Morim freely." Noah says, "Are you actually planning to go on a trip?" The prince says, "Don't make it seem so big. I'll go out for a little while, that's all." Noah says, "But you haven't fully mastered martial arts. Are you saying you don't have time?" The prince says all the martial arts of Heavenly, Demon, and High Noon are already inside my head. I can simply show them through a gesture. Have you forgotten that? Huai Na says, "However, I don't feel comfortable letting you go like this." "Young master," the prince thinks for a while, then leaves and says, "Okay, maybe this will ease your minds a little. So let's see the heavenly devil's arts in reality." The Noah brothers say, "Will he be okay? There is no help. The master has already left us. Will things be okay?" After a bomb like this drops on Morim's world, the No brothers look up from the top of the mountain, and Hui Na says, "Is the master doing well?" Nuai Na says, "Don't worry, he will get it done somehow. He very much resembles the late emperor. Didn't you notice that he did not have to forget the holy books?" An injured warrior appears before us, surrounded by a group of warriors. He tells them that no matter how hard you try, you will not be able to break our spirits. The warrior is the blue-faced demon king. Heijin, Pio, a man turns to him and tells him, "You have the soul of a martial master who has roamed around for generations. But here, your luck ends. As soon as we, the Northern Blade Association, intervene." The blue-faced demon king says, "That's right. That's what you have to say. Aren't you the one who boasted of your strength? In the first place, the Northern Monument Association might be the dominant force in Jiangsu, but I'm also a student of a great school. Go and tell the president of the Northern Blade Association that the day I, Jun, will end, his life will come one day." One of the members of the Northern Blade Society says, "Although I do not think that day will come, we have deployed the network of heaven and earth to capture all 7 kings of the demonic path. People like you should be grateful for this kind of treatment, don't you think?" Says a member of the Northern Blade Association. "You think I won't know about your plan? I must applaud your courage in making a noise to distract us and let your brothers escape. You must have wanted to buy time, but you met the wrong opponent." He hears a voice from a place not far away telling him, "I heard that. What are you going to do? I think your brothers have already gone to the underworld." The blue-faced devils say, "Oh, orthodox scoundrels, you are desperate for the seeds of the satanic path to dry up." He gets angry and attacks a member of the Northern Blade Society, but he is a strong opponent and was unable to repel the attack and hit him in the head. He says, I said, the seeds of the satanic path. Getting rid of those things is the right thing to do. The blue-faced demon king says, no matter how wildly you act, you bastards, if that person is. That person says to him, you talking about the great master of the demonic path, Hayek Wu Yung, whom you reverence so much. Shall I tell you a secret? Both the Northern Sea Sword King and the Azure Sea Assassin have turned their backs. What could even the great master of the demonic path do? Haven't you noticed how he doesn't even plan anything? While you're all dying right now? The blue-faced demon king says that he is not this type of person. There will be times when he and our brothers will fight on the demonic path, no matter the cost. He says that you talk a lot, and this does not suit your appearance. He orders his followers to eliminate him. The blue-faced demon king attacks them with one of the martial skills, the arts of the lightning blade, brutal demonic force. The leader of the Northern Blade Squad gets angry and says, this pig-like bastard, do you still have the internal energy left to use the enhanced ki aura? He attacks them, but they repel the attack. He says to himself, repel my enhanced kai blade with their enhanced kai sword, you bastards. At the same moment, the three Tianshan swordsmen appear. One of them says, Ha John Pio, you are now the last remaining of the 7 kings of the demonic path of the Demon King Alliance. Today's hunting will end after you are eliminated. The blue-faced Demon King says, thinking that you will brag about hunting humans. As expected from orthodox warriors, he tells him that I am exhausted because of you. Just die now. They attack him with the hidden sword net. The Demon King says to himself, my brothers, I will follow you soon. He attacks with the techniques of the lightning blade. The final attack, the endless lightning. Suddenly, a sudden attack comes from an unknown person. They look on in amazement at what happened. Prince Yun appears and says, pathetic bastards. I was watching the fight from afar because it was fun, but all of you are acting arrogant just because you are martial masters. They say we took away our weapons in an instant. Who the hell is he shouting at him? You bastard. Who do you think you were to joke with us like that? Prince Yun tells them, I don't remember that I was joking with anyone. But as you can see, sir, the martial artist takes away his weapon. Isn't this the biggest insult to him? Why should a mere child like you go to Prince Yun and tell him who you are? Show me your name. The prince thinks of a name and then says, I am the reincarnation of a heavenly demon, destroyer of the heavens. The heavenly demon says, as I expected, you liked the name. One of his leaders, Sword Tian, says to him, so you are the destroyer of the heavens, El Chamuth El, the reincarnation of the heavenly demon. One of the members of the Northern Blade Association says you are idiots. Why do you know about each other? Step aside. How dare you belittle us and disrespect us, considering how you talk about heavenly Satan, or whatever that is. It is clear that you are also following the satanic path, so we must kill you both. Kill them. They turn towards them to kill them. The heavenly demon tells him, don't tell me that you will just stand like this. Prince Yun says, do you think I will die an empty death like this after enduring this hell? They attack him, but he dodges the attack. He eliminates them with his bare hand, without a weapon. The heavenly demon tells him, you can't even use half your power properly. A member of the Northern Blade Society looks at them and decides to intervene. He summons the sword and then goes to Prince Yun and tells him, you shouldn't have ignored me. Prince Yun attacks and hurts him and says, don't you know that your entire body was given to you by your parents? But old man, are you allowed to injure your allies like this? He shouts and says, you arrogant bastard. Prince Yun kicks him in the face. He says, no comrades, why do you wake him up? He goes towards the prince, but the prince blocks their blows. He hits them both together. I hit one in the stomach, while the other hits him on the head with his foot. He looks at his followers and says, what are you doing? They attacked, taking advantage of your numbers. The prince goes to him and grabs him by the neck. He says, it seems that you like fighting, taking advantage of your numbers. The princess let go of him, and then goes and says, damn, he appeared in front of me in an instant. without leaving any trace. The prince decides to show off some of the heavenly devil's skills. He launches an attack with his feet on the ground. The heavenly devil says, "Happily, for this martial art, Crimsley." Heavenly devil's revolving steps. The blue-faced demon king says, "Am I an illusion?" A member of the Northern Blade Society says, "Is this an illusion technique?" Prince Yun says to him, "I'm not sure about that. Why don't you find out for yourself?" He says, "Do you think that we three swordsmen, Tian, have fallen for such a trivial illusion?" The prince attacks them, hits them from behind with a strong blow, then heads towards the others. One of them stands and receives a strong blow. They take his arm. He looks at his soldiers and finds them terrified and running away. The heavenly devil tells him, "Aren't you going to follow them?" Prince Yun says, "No, that will be annoying. So, are we satisfied with this day?" Heavenly demon says, "As I expected. You have the qualifications to be my follower." Prince Yun says to himself, "An incredibly amazing person has emerged." The prince was surprised one day by the blue-faced demon king. He found him bowing to the prince and saying, "The great warrior, please allow me to come with you." Prince Yun runs away and says, "It is impossible, you hairy old man." Events move to the city, people say, and Muram's world has been turned upside down. 2000 swordmen from the Northern Blade Association and 500 martial masters from the 9 Orthodox Alliance, who went to search for the 7 kings of the demonic path. 6 out of 7 kings were slaughtered. It was not surprising that the Orthodox sects overwhelmed the 7 kings of the satanic path. But it was the second piece of news that followed that which began to put the Murim in a state of turmoil as the heavenly rider of Satan, the destroyer of heaven, the person who slaughtered 528 people from the Northern Blade Society and 127 people from the 9 Orthodox Alliance. His appearance resembles a demon god. Prince Yun hears the news being said about him in the city. Some people heard that everyone who saw him died and his face is like the face of a demon. A young man says, but the second sword of Tianshan that managed to survive was said to be a handsome young master. The young man says, in any case, the Northern Blade Association has already sent an investigation team. It seems that there will be a bloodbath in El Muraim. The heavenly devil laughs and says, everyone is making a fuss about us. Wasn't it wonderful that your name has become a heaven crusher? Prince Yun tells him to shut your mouth. I feel like I just fell into a useless fight. He says anyway, because this bastard Ha Diajiang knows my face. Should I disguise myself now? Monk Hai Nyong says to him, instead of disguising himself, how about changing your impression? The prince goes to the bar and orders a bottle of alcohol and some simple snacks. The waitress looks at him and says to her, why do you keep staring at me? Don't tell me she knew who I was. The waitress says to him, I apologize for being rude, but this is the first time I have seen such a handsome customer in the 10 years of my work as a waitress. Prince Yun says, that's the way things are. You go to stop his students from eating and drinking alcohol. He says, what a pungent smell. It tastes different from the alcohol I used to drink in the palace. Monk Hai Nyang says, although I don't know what alcohol is, perhaps it is one of the things that brings joy to the common people. How do you feel? Does Murim alcohol taste different? The prince says, I had many opportunities to taste it, but I did not enjoy it. The person who enjoyed drinking was my uncle. It's bitter to me. Alcohol always tasted bitter. The monk says, from what I just heard, illness of the mind must have made alcohol bitter. Prince Yun says mental illness. The monk says, I will only say one thing. Even though you definitely committed murder this time, no one else can pay for your sins. So please don't make the foolish mistake of taking an avoidable fight and committing a meaningless fight. By doing this, the day will come when you finally feel the sweetness of the alcohol. The heavenly demon says, this sounds just like what an old misty monk like you would do. Say, do you even know the taste of alcohol? If you don't kill, you will be killed. This applies not only to the Murim, but also to the world. Don't you know that as well? Monk Hai Nyung says to the heavenly demon, this is the first time he has committed such extreme murder after coming to Murim, so you should show him some generosity and teach him how to repent. Celestial demon says, I don't have this filthy generosity. The prince says to himself, yes. I never knew that celestial demon's martial nun would be this powerful. It was also the first time I felt free. After all, if I only use this power for my own benefit, how am I different from my uncle? The prince says, listen, High Noon, when I feel like my drinks are good, I'll go get a drink for you too. The monk Hai Nyong says to him, I cannot drink alcohol. The prince says, yes, that is true. You are a monk. While they are talking, one of the people in the bar turns to him. The heavenly devil says to the prince, wait, be careful, someone is coming towards you. He arrives at the table where the prince was sitting, and the prince says to himself that he is a member of the Southern Blade Alliance. But he greets the prince and says to him, I am Tang Jiu from Sichuan province. If that's okay with you, do you want to join me and my friends? Prince Yun says to himself, judging by their appearance, they seem to be the same age as me, and they seem to be proficient in martial arts. Since I'm bored anyway, should I join them and get some information? He tells them, I will definitely join you. Tang Guo says, all of you. We salute the young master, since he gladly accepted our offer. One of the young men walks up to him, and someone says to him, nice to meet you, young master. I am Namjung Haik Ryan, also known as the Divine White Sword Dragon. Prince Yeon greets them and says, it is an honor to meet you. A huge young man comes forward and says, I, Ping Zheng, is the Iron Fist of Blood. One of the girls introduces herself, Namjung Yoon. It's an honor to meet you, young master. One of the girls seems annoyed with him. Namjung Himi says to herself, what's so good about him that everyone welcomes him? The rest introduce themselves. Hayek Ryan says, I think this introduction is sufficient on our part. What about you? The prince says, thinking about it, you all look like the descendants of prestigious martial clans. I don't know how to react because you all treat me so generously. I'm a trainee, and my name is Wen Yeon. I wander from place to place. It's a great honor to be with great people like you. He says to himself, why did you say Wen Yun's dirty name? Who will know your identity now? Hayek Ryan says, nice to meet you, Mr. Wen Yun. The prince thinks and says, at first, I think they knew I was the destroyer of the sky because the ordinary people of the Murim knew that I was the same age as them. But after they introduced themselves, I realized that these fur masters and fur sovereigns were unexpectedly people of great status. Unlike the Northern Blade Organization and the Southern Blade Alliance, they belonged to a much stronger force than the Orthodox faction known for its good deeds. The Five Clan Association and the pillars of the Five Clan Association were, to summarize, these people are the rising young men, the future officials of the Five Clan. The prince says to them, but what brings you to this place? I think this place was very far from Qingdu and Jiangnan. The heavenly demon says to him, why didn't you say that you know nothing about the Murim at all? The prince says to himself, when I was emperor, I almost memorized the map of the continent. Ping Zheng says, you wouldn't know even if we told you that something happened in the Murim. And as I told you before, we belong to an organization called the Five Clan League. This inn may be for the mendicant Taif, but it is also the base of the Northern Blade Organization. Amir says, thus, if he thinks to himself, oh, my God, this inn is the base of the Northern Blade Association. The prince says once about your meeting here, the fact that this inn is the headquarters of the Northern Blade Organization. Haim says, and she is annoyed. This man is very curious. Why do you think? Because the Northern Monument Organization will be hosting the grand banquet for the Orthodox faction. His brother says to her, hey, Hemi, will you be rude to the guest? Tell him, sorry brother. The prince says, because of the grand banquet of the Orthodox faction, all the martial artists and Orthodox factions gather in this inn. I did not know that the world of Morum was so divided into different factions. I don't know much about Morum, so Hayek Ryan says, I see. You must have been curious about the world of Morum. Morum is a bad place. Just like you said, especially now. The root of the conflict is getting deeper and deeper. The Orthodox and Satanic path, and regardless of the extent of your lack of knowledge of Murim. You must at least know this, right? The prince says yes. I know about this too. Hayek Ryan says, even in the history of the Murim, the two powers were not separated as clearly as they are today. We are in a situation where every person in Murim must choose between the two. No matter what, we must choose between the two at all costs. Prince Yoon says, but there must be someone who does not want to belong to either the orthodox path or the satanic path. Hayek Ryan says of course there are, but people or groups who mysteriously choose neutrality are considered enemies and are highly likely to be killed. The prince says to himself, even when they are not in a relationship, they kill just because they do not want to take sides. What an unreasonable measure. The prince says, I apologize for interrupting you by saying, kill those who accuse you. Hayek says, annoyed, we are the orthodox faction. I belong to the orthodox faction as well. As such, you may think I'm just flattering you, but I don't think the orthodox chapter's suppression of the satanic faction. It is the only way to maintain stability in the Murim. Heavenly Satan says. So he is saying, what is in his heart? Look at this man. He is very open for a young orthodox child. His brother Hayek says, my older brother, you are saying this in front of a lot of people. Prince Yoon says to himself, he may be a young man from the 5 clans, but at the moment his opinion has no effect. He is right, but he is not realistic. But this man deserves to be watched carefully. The prince says, the situation in Murim is very complicated. I have learned a lot. Hayek says, well, everyone has their own circumstances too. Young master, you seem to be very interested in Murim, so take your time talking. Are you curious about anything else? He says, so this might seem a little arrogant, but who is the strongest in Jonghu right now? He looks at them and they are nervous. He says to himself, did I make a mistake? It seems that the question is sensitive. After Hayek thought about it, he said, it's okay to ask who is the strongest, so I'm not sure. Although there are some differences in opinion, I think he is the leading person among the 4 generations, the supreme demon lord. But Jonghu is vast, and there are many martial arts masters of unknown level knowledge. I believe that the unknown martial arts masters are stronger than those you know. They may appear at any time and in any place. Prince Yeon says, what about Mr. Hainyang, the 6th of the Chulin? Hayek says, excuse me, Mr. Hainyang, it is difficult to say for sure, as it has been 700 years. The prince says like this, then what about the heavenly devil? Hayek says to himself, heavenly devil, why does he ask about him? It will be his. You are not completely ignorant about the Murim. You know important figures in the history of the Murim. The story of the heavenly devil is unbelievable. The house we can believe in is very mysterious. The heavenly devil gets angry upon hearing the news. He says that even the infirm beyond the heavens know this truth. Suddenly, a group of people entered upon them, and they were chasing a boy, shouting at her, saying, you bastard. How did you have the audacity to think of trying to escape from him? The girl is crying and begging them to have mercy on her and not to torture her. The prince looks at them and says, this outfit is the Northern Blade Society. Northern Blade Association. Deputy leader of the Justice Enforcement Team. White Tiger Sword. Ya Deok Sam. He grabs her hair and tells her to leave your father alone and run away, while saying that you want to succeed yourself. What a slut you are. But the girl screams and cries and asks for help. Hayek Ryan's sister goes to help the girl and says, how long has Kaifeng become so chaotic? How could the martial artists of the orthodox sects persecute a helpless girl? This is what those in the bar say. Yes, even if you are from the Northern Blade Association, this crosses the line. One of the members of the Northern Blade Society says, thinking that you dare to stick your nose into the work of the Northern Blade Society, do you think you will come out of this unscathed? Hayek Ryan's sister says that you may be able to scare others in the name of the Northern Blade Society, but that will not work on Namjoon Himi, the Northern Blade Society. People said that this meant that she was the daughter of the Azure Heavenly Sacred Sword. The team leader of the Northern Blade Society says, Miss. Non-interference in the affairs of other sects is an unstated rule in Zhonghu. Haim says I'm not stupid enough not to know that, and yet not turning a blind eye to things that go against the norm is what I have to do as a martial artist. And from what I see, what you are doing is no different than kidnapping. The squad leader says, I think you are doing this because you do not understand. This girl's name is Shui Chufeng, daughter of the 1,000-skilled snow leopard, Shui Jinji, Kafeng border demon sect leader. We have no choice because an arrest warrant has been issued for all members of the border demon sect. If you still don't want to get out of our way, we will have to use force. Hayek Ryan says, you said you would use force. Since when has the Northern Blade Association's Justice Enforcement Team been acting so arrogant? All the members of the 5-Clan Association, including Prince Yun, walk towards him. He says to himself, I shouldn't have joined. The team leader says, young sir, because we are on an official mission. He says to himself, judging by their clothes, that bastard must be a member of the great Namjoon clan as well. He says, or are you trying to threaten me? Hayek Ryan says a threat. If so, what are you doing? The team leader says then we have no other choice but to report to our superiors. While they are talking, the leader of the terrifying Sword Justice Enforcement Team, Wu Yun Cheng, arrives and says there is no need to submit a report. The word retreat does not exist in the Justice Enforcement Team's dictionary. Are you going to report something so trivial? They salute the leader and say, Mr. Shaf, to the Namjoon clan. Don't you think you are crossing the line? If the head of the 5-Clan Alliance knew about this matter, wouldn't you bear responsibility for what I'm saying? Wouldn't you be in a critical matter? If the story spread that the next head of the great Namjoon clan would be, he faces the Northern Monument Association, just for the sake of a girl from the demon path. To which Hayek Ryan replies, saying, repeat it if you dare. Wu Yun Chong says if the relationship between the Northern Blade Association and the 5-Clan Alliance worsens because of you, will you bear the responsibility then? The vice president of the Ping clan shouts, promise. How do you manage to threaten the next head of the Namjoon clan? Shut it down while we are still acting friendly. Wu Yun says, shut up. If my memory serves me, you must be a descendant of the Ping clan. I show my respect to young Master Namjoon. You must have misunderstood something. Taking your age and position into account, do you think you can say something like that to me? He says to one of his followers, order the members of the Justice Enforcement Squad who are surrounding the place not to let anyone out from now on. He takes his sword and goes towards Hayek Ryan and says to him, what are you going to do now, Mr. Shihab? The heavenly demon says, annoyed. That arrogant scoundrel from the beginning. Scoundrels of the damned orthodox sects. Those were always wolves in sheep's clothing. Why don't you destroy them, you heavenly destroyer? Prince Yun says to him, are you crazy? If you use your martial arts, my identity will be revealed immediately. The heavenly devil's curiosity is extremely worrying. Can't you kill everyone so that there are no witnesses left? Prince Yun says to him, are you serious? During their conversation, the priest Hai Nung says, in this case, why don't you use martial arts? Wu Yun says, I ask you, what are you going to do, young master? Hayek says, angrily, leave the boy to us. If you can't, we will accompany that girl and monitor the progress of your entire investigation. Whether her father is an obstacle in the path of the devil or an enemy of the entire world, it has nothing to do with her if she refuses this. So we will not let the matter pass unnoticed either. Leader Wu Yun gets angry at their conversation. One of his followers says the leader's expression has changed. That expression is something that appears when he wants to kill someone. Wu Yun says that you carry the clan's aura on your back, and yet you are completely ignorant about how the world works. The members of the 5-Clan Association prepare to attack. Hayek says, try to take it. Wu Haiyan looks at them and says, I can't bear to look at the arrogant face of a young master from a wealthy family. I will kill this girl right here. Hayek dismisses himself and says, you malicious bastard. This is something a member of the orthodox sect can do to you. Wu Haiyan says, yes. Killing her would be too much, right? What do you think of this? He tries to rip her clothes and slit her chest. The heavenly destroyer attacks Prince Yoon and says, "I can't bear this anymore," and he kicks him in the face. The members of the Five Clan Association look at him amazed at what happened. Prince Yun says, "This is the martial art of Chulin, rising sky steps." The leader says, "How dare you, you bastard." They look at him as he flies in the sky. The leader says to himself, "Is there really a King Gong like this? I don't think he is from the Five Clan Alliance. Where exactly did this bastard come from?" The prince arrives at him and says, "Leave the child alone. If she doesn't, she is preparing to die with these hands here." And now the leader says, "I don't know who you are, but when you do this," he takes the leader's sword and says, "I am from the Northern Blade Organization." Prince John slaps him and says, "I heard you repeatedly say that you are the dog of the Northern Blade Organization. It's the order, leave the girl." The commander holds his cheek and says, "I cannot, even if I am a combat master." This word, withdrawal, does not exist in the dictionary of the Law Enforcement Division in particular. Prince Yoon did not give him enough time to finish his words, but he punched him in the stomach and then repeatedly hit him on his weak points. The prince says to the commander, "Believe me, I will not stop next time." But the commander is not satisfied and decides to attack the prince with all the soldiers he has. He orders his soldiers to kill the prince. They attack the prince, but the prince hits them with Priest Hai Nung's techniques and says, "Why do these bastards continue to follow me, when they only depend on their numbers?" He attacks one of the soldiers and says, "This is a damned scoundrel." But the prince hits him with one of the priest's techniques. But the soldiers did not write and attacked the prince in large numbers. As the prince recites several techniques, the commander looks at him and says to himself, "If only my memory did not fail me. This is all the heavenly Shaolin technique." The leader saw and tried to attack the prince, but the prince returned the attack with the immoral palm technique and hit him in the neck with the strong blow. Prince Yoon ends the attack and says, "Okay, I think we should end this matter here and start cleaning up the shop." Prince Yun says, "The sky was very clear after we finished cleaning, although it was embarrassing, but they were all sitting at the same table." Prince Yun says, "I suggest that we stay together to get rid of any pent-up resentment or hatred." The member of the Five Clan Association says, "I'm speechless. There should be limits to how much you despise others. How can you laugh after you deceived us?" A girl from the Five Clan Association says, "That's right, young master. You have exaggerated your jokes. You pretended to be an amateur, but the amount of internal energy you have is unbelievable." Prince Yoon apologizes and says, "I'm sorry. I had no other choice to avoid any inevitable obstacles or circumstances but to hide my identity. I hope you won't be too upset. However, I did not lie when I said that I am an amateur. When it comes to Murim, this is the first time I have come here. I hope from your honorable presence that you will forgive me for lying to you." Prince Yoon Il-hyuk Ryan says, "Is there something you want to ask about?" He says, "I don't want to ask you about the past and ruin a good relationship. However, wouldn't it be better if you told us about these obstacles or inevitable circumstances that we mentioned, but we feel less betrayed? What is your true identity?" Prince Yoon thinks and says, "No, to be honest, this is not something I can reveal rashly, but I understand the reason for your request. As young Master Namjoon said, fate has brought us together here, so I will not hide the matter from you. I inherited the Honorable Mantor Hai Noon, the sixth leader of the Shulin Temple." The members of the Five Clan Association look at him in amazement and say, "What?" The Heavenly Devil tells him, "You have no equal in coming up with lies." Priest Hai Nyong says, "However, not everything he said is wrong." Hyuk Ryan's sister says, "It's impossible. I can't understand this. You know, Aaron Hai Noon is a man from the Tang period. How can you inherit his mantra? Do you mean that you have become immortal?" The heavenly demon says to the prince, "What will you do now? It seems that your lie did not succeed." The prince says to the boy, "I understood. My explanation was not clear enough. I have not met him personally, of course. I was born and raised in Mount Tai, and one day, in an abandoned cave, I found traces of a holy book. After that, I started going to that cave daily. Understanding written texts was not easy, but after many years, despite the shortcomings, I was able to obtain a legacy. The boy says to herself, I can't lie to him. I saw him using those skills. Hayek Ryan says seriously, and was very lucky to find you in the cave. The prince says, where is it? I would be truly grateful if you would forgive me for unintentionally deceiving you. Hayek says, stop being ridiculous. If this is not a blessing to the Orthodox communities in the Murim, what could it be? We are the ones who have to be careful about the way we treat you, young master. The prince says, be careful. What do you mean by this? Hayek says, one of the most important things in the Murim here is seniority as someone who has a revered divine presence as your master. How can we not treat you with caution, don't you think so? They all say yes, yes, you're right. Wuyan says to himself, damn it, when I drink with these bastards. He says to himself, relax. What makes you so upset? He looks at the prince and says to himself, get soaked if you are going to disturb the atmosphere. And also, you know what? It's okay if you open that mouth of yours and say something that shouldn't be said, right? He uses the yin and yang refinement technique, which separates thoughts from actions, to think that he can perform this superior technique with ease. Prince Yian says, oh, great warrior, Wu Haiyan, no more similar incidents will happen from now on. That's right. Haiyan says to him, of course, I can assure you, sir. Prince, if I think it's best for you to leave now, great warrior Wu Haiyan, you still have to treat your soul as well. Wu Yan thanks the prince and says, thank you very much for your concern. I will take care of my wounds later. Hayek asks him to stay with them as long as he has no place to go. After that, the prince goes to take a shower and says, I am trying to live a quiet life, but the world does not allow me to do that. The heavenly devil tells him that this is the life of the strong. The prince is relaxing in the fountain. The heavenly demon tells the prince to regain consciousness. There is a man coming. The prince looks at her, and the man is the king of demons, with a blue face. The prince says to her, what are you doing here? The prince says to himself, it's the man I saw on the snowy mountain that day. Who would have thought that a nuisance like him would follow me all the way here? The blue-faced demon king asks the princess to kiss him as a follower. The prince tells him, lower your voice, you bastard. My ears will explode. You really followed me all the way here. The blue-faced demon king tells him that he is already dead, and because he saved him, he will devote his entire life to him. The heavenly demon tells Prince Yun to take him as a follower, since the matter has come to this point. The prince thought to himself, and said, he took his book. However, bringing this idiot with me will attract a lot of attention. I have to be taken to a place that no one can see. Prince Yun tells him, I will accept his letter to me, but you must go to Mount Tai to become stronger. Suddenly Mount Tai, the small hidden peak, appears. The Noah brothers appear as they collect wood. One of them says, no, but this is the voice that I kept hearing a little while ago. The blue-faced demon king appears as he climbs the mountain carrying his belongings. He reaches the top and says, I have finally found him. He remembers what the prince told him. He said to him, with your current skill, you are no good. So go to the place I told you about immediately and develop your skill. He says to the brothers, this lowly fellow is the blue-faced demon king. Jun Pyo, follow his lord's orders. I came here to greet my lords in the Tai Mountains. Huai says to him, who is your master? This is a place that no one should know about. So, how can this bear-like bastard? What are you doing to the creator of the earth, young master? The story moves to the prince as he is doing some exercises. He is teaching him, telling him to focus on the flow. Please, the flow of energy. How many waves I have? You just have to follow it without resisting it. Stop. You did a great job, sir. Your control of internal energy has improved. Heavenly Demon says seriously, what is the benefit of doing basic training like this? Priest Hai tells him that the basics are important. Heavenly Demon Lord. Heavenly Demon says, by the way, Heavenly Destroyer, have you decided what you will do from now on? The prince says, who knows? I'm not sure about that yet. Heavenly Demon says I want you to sharpen my martial arts, but your body is simply too weak. Since you haven't planned anything yet, why don't you let me plan for you, says the prince in your dreams. Even if I don't have any big plans, I'll do whatever my heart tells me. You know I don't want to give up anything. Heavenly Satan says, okay, don't give up. Then there's nothing wrong with living in this world, achieving everything you desire. Priest Hai says, if you look at the dark side of modesty, sir, whatever may seem troubling to you in my eyes flows according to order. Do not base your life on vanity and empty obsession. This may be followed by the provision for this world that gives you this power. The prince says to himself, how can this happen? As if I live in the company of a bully and a strict old man. This is enough for both of you to stop. I'm the one who will decide how to live my life anyway. More importantly, it seems that only your memories of your martial arts have been passed on intact, while the rest of your memories are nowhere to be found. It was as if someone had tampered with them on purpose. What should I do to make you whole again? The heavenly demon told him that it will happen naturally when your inner energy and state become more mature. For example, even if you have inner energy, not only will you be able to control everything completely, but you will be able to do all kinds of tricks. If you are killed by the Great Death technique before we unite, we will be able to act in your place temporarily, and in this perfect union, we will be able to liberate ourselves from you, says Prince Yoon. Are you saying liberation is the devil? This is true. It means we can go anywhere, to the underworld or inside your body. After that, Prince Yeon falls asleep and dreams that he met his grandfather. He tells him, my grandfather, I am Yeon Wen. Why can't you recognize him? After you left, you went through a lot. But what bothered me most was when he was crying and saying how much I miss you. Grandpa would go to her and say, don't be sad, Yoon. I'm not alone anymore. It's true. You have a different path to follow, so you must not return the pain you suffered to the world. Please do not become a devil motivated by revenge, and be a strong person, Yeon Wen. Remember my words. After that, the imagination fades away. The prince says to him, Grandpa, please don't go. The heavenly demon wakes him up. Wake up, you heavenly destroyer. He wakes up terrified. The heavenly demon tells him, you are fine, heavenly destroyer. He says, sir, what kind of dream made you suffer this much? The prince says, damn, it's nothing. He looks at the celestial demon. He says, I woke up thanks to you. Thank you, celestial demon. He says, why don't you save these words for later? Someone is coming to this room now, you idiot. He looks at the door and finds a girl entering it. He says, who in the name of the creator of the earth would come here this late? Prince says to himself that he is an assassin sent by the Northern Blade Association. He assumes that Ha Junpyo has already gone to Mount Tai. Satan says, judging by the steps, that it is a girl who enters him. He says to him, why did you come here? By the name of the creator of the earth. The girl says, Mr. Young Man, from the moment I saw you, I already felt that we were destined for each other. I feel that I will lose if I do not gather my courage. The prince gets very nervous about her. The heavenly demon says, isn't this good? The priest says, hey, you can't do this, sir. The girl says, he is handsome and attractive. The prince says, ma'am, we will both get in trouble if you continue to act like this, so stop and realize it. He slaps her and says to her, I'm sorry. The girl says, Mr. Young Man, how can you be so cruel? Do you hate me? The prince says, not so for a beginner like me who has recently entered the Morum. You are far above my level. I will accept your hints with a grateful heart. The girl says, that's right. You must have come to Murim with great ambition. I understand. I will back off just for today. The princess says, thank you very much for your understanding, Miss Namjoon. The girl says, however, even if I take a step back this time, I give up on you, young sir. You leave the room and then relax. The heavenly devil says, this fool. Haven't you heard the saying that heroes love women? Hey, he says, no, that's fine, sir. The prince says, crush all kinds of nonsense. He talks to them, imitating that he should go. The devil says, whether the heavenly one. What is this? Even after she behaved like this, Are you trying to go to her room now? Prince, enough ball. Heavenly demon. There's a lot on my mind, so I'll go outside and get some fresh air. Then the prince goes while he is flying in the sky. The devil says, it seems that you have mastered the heavenly demon flying technique well. But where are you going? It is good to live as you wish, but won't you sleep? The prince says, I heard something from the twins. Seeing my grandfather in my dream reminded me of meeting someone. I didn't come to Kafing just for fun, you know. The prince arrives and says how majestic the Guandi temple is. The devil says, why did you come here? To pay respects or something? The guards go to the prince. The prince says no, according to the twins. The headquarters of the beggar sect is in this place. In the beggar sect, the number of knots on the waist indicates identity. Prince Yoon says to himself, there are 2 knots on their waists that they are informants for the beggar sect. The information I heard from Manjong Haik Ryan is really useful. The guard says, who are you, and what job brought you here? The illiterate says, my name is Wen Yun. I'm here to see the former head of the beggar sect, Mr. Bong Chian Ho. The 2 warriors heard Anhu and Wen Yun walking away from him, saying, you the great warrior Wen Yun, nicknamed the Jade-Faced Holy Dragon. The Jade-Faced Holy Dragon prince said, I don't know when I got a title that I didn't know about, but being Wen Yun is right. Aren't you the person who clashed with the Northern Blade Association yesterday in the Palace of Neutrality? The prince says to himself, as expected. It is said that the sect of beggars has eyes and ears in all parts of the Mirim. They really know everything. Prince Yun enters the headquarters of the beggars sect and into the reception room. One of the guards says, welcome, young master. Where do you excuse the impudence we showed outside? Prince Yun says to himself, with 3 necklaces, he must have a good position in the sect. The guard says, by the way, may I ask you about any work you have with the grand leader of the sect? The prince shows the necklace to the guard. The prince says, can you show this to him? Then he will know why you came here. The guard says, I understand. Wait a moment, please. Then I will inform the grand commander immediately. Do you need anything? The prince says, excuse me. By the way, it seems to me that you are doing me a favor for free. May I ask the reason? The guard says, the beggars, sect, and the Northern Blade Society are enemies in Kafing, so it's a joy to hear how you insulted those scoundrels, young master. Although I do not know what kind of relationship you have with the grand leader of our sect, we are also interested in what you will do, young master. That's why there's no need to feel like you're my superior, says the prince. If I understand, the prince says to himself. Anyway, it may not look attractive, but their headquarters building is excellent. Contrary to their appearance, the beggar sect is truly a force to be reckoned with. It seems that I will pay a heavy price if I look at them as mere beggars. Suddenly, as he was thinking to himself, the former leader of the beggars sect came rushing in, shouting, "Young master, are you the one who brought this medal here?" The prince looks at her and is amazed, and says to himself, "A large number of necklaces." Mr. Bong says, "Young master, are you the one who brought this badge?" The prince answers, "Yes, I am the one who brought it." Mr. Bong bows in respect and says, "His Majesty the Emperor, I have finally had the opportunity to see you. Please forgive this subordinate for his negligence in serving you. From now on, this subordinate will devote his entire life to serving you." Introduction to the Beggar King Bong Qianho, the grand leader of the beggar sect. The prince says to himself, happy as expected. He remembers what the new brother said, saying, "Please go to Kafing to meet the grand leader of the beggar sect. You will need to use the emperor badge again." He remembers what his grandfather said, saying, "Don't be sad. Yan Wen, you are not alone now, are you?" The prince says to himself, and he is happy that he is serious, "Grandfather, I am truly nothing before you." The king of beggars asks the prince, "Are Hui Wan and Huan Na in good condition?" The prince answers him, "I bet they are, even though it has been a bit long since I last saw them." The king of beggars says, "Your Majesty, please speak informally to me." The prince says, "No, I am more comfortable like this," and on and on. "I am not the emperor anymore, so there is no need for you to be polite to me." The king of beggars says, Then this lowly vassal will do as you command, your majesty, sir. Even though I and the No twins are the only force that Emperor Tezu has planted in Jianghu, but we will do our best to support you whenever you need us. The prince says, happy to hear from the king of beggars. No, beggar Bong. I don't want to get involved in politics anymore, because my uncle is the hero of this era. I have no intention of getting into a family quarrel again. So don't say things like that again. The king of beggars says, understood in this case. What are you planning to do from now on, sir? The prince says, even though I am not an emperor anymore, I don't want to live a miserable life. So I am thinking of ruling Jianghu as its emperor. If the beggar sect under your leadership unites with the Noah twins, most of the sects in Jianghu will not be able to resist. So it is not impossible to make the big power surrender, right? What do you think? Would you be able to do a bloodbath for me? The king of the beggars says, you want to do a bloodbath. The beggar sect in particular is not part of the alliance. The Taif of the Nine, the Orthodox Alliance of the Nine. Do you know why the prince says, no, I don't know. He says this in order to preserve our future system. Even though our sect exists throughout Jianghu, we need great strength and determination for our sect members to throw themselves into the flames, following my orders. But everything we do is for the order of heaven. If it orders us, even if it is wrong, we will carry it out without asking any questions. The prince says to himself, as I expected. My grandfather had a very loyal following. She could have ignored this, accepting it as a rude request from a little brat. But he stayed by my side despite being the leader of a great power like the mendicant sect. The more I know of his followers and acquaintances, the more I know of you. He was very serious. The prince says, I'm sorry, king of the beggars. It was a joke. The king of the beggars shouts when he says, oh my god. Did this old man show disrespect by not knowing that it was a joke? The prince says no disrespect. Just your words alone have given me a lot of confidence. When the time comes when I need your help, will you listen to my request then? The king of beggars says, of course, I will. He says, by the way, sir, your name is already known throughout Kaifeng. I heard that you use Shaolin martial arts. May I ask what happened? The prince says it's a long story to explain, so please hear it from the twins. Note later. By the way, will you attend the great banquet of the sects? The righteous path says, the king of beggars says a disciple will attend there. If you are going, then I will also go and watch, sir. The prince decides to go and tell him, see you later. If the king of the beggars, he says to him, sir, please wait a moment. He takes the prince to an underground place that contains combat equipment, including swords, daggers, and other things. He says to him, please follow me. I want to show you something. The prince enters the room and is amazed at the sight. He says, what an amazing place. The king of beggars says these are weapons that make your heart tremble just looking at them. These are all famous weapons from the Han era. The prince says this is an amazing weapon store. But how long will we continue to advance? The demon king says we have arrived, and takes him into a second room containing 2 amazing swords. The king of beggars says, I have preserved the property of his majesty, Emperor Tezu. I think it is time for this weapon to go to its master. Heavenly demon and priest, High Noon. Noise inquiry, Amir says. Why are you making noise? He says to himself. There is something strange about these 2 swords. But the king of beggars says, sir, which one will you choose? Please choose which one you wish. The prince thinks and says, what I desire. The heavenly devil says, tell him that you will choose the black sword. But the priest says, no sir, please choose the white sword. The beggar prince, Bong says, can I have both?